and deal hardly. People wish them ill so long as they are alive, and speak contemptuously of them when they are dead. But he that is righteous and deals righteously, the people tell of his praise among all lands, and many shall call him blessed. Odysseus answered, Madam, I have forsworn rugs and blankets from the day that I left the snowy ranges of Crete to go on shipboard. I will lie as I have lain on many sleepless night hitherto. Night after night I have passed in any rough sleeping place, and waited for morning. Nor again do I like having my feet washed. I shall not let any of the young hussies of our house touch my feet. But if you have any old and respectable woman who has gone through as much trouble as I have, I will allow her to wash them. To this Penelope answered, My dear sir, of all the guests who have ever yet came to my house, there never was one who spoke in all things with such admirable propriety as you do. There happens to be in the house a most respectable old woman, the same who received my poor dear husband in her arms the night he was born, and nursed him in infancy. She is very feeble now, but she shall wash your feet. Come here, said she, Euryclea, and wash your master's aged mate. I suppose Odysseus' hands and feet are very much the same now as his are, for troubled ages old and dreadfully fast. On these words the old woman covered her face with her hands. She began to weep and made lamentation, saying, My dear child, I cannot think whatever I am to do with you. I am certain no one was ever more God-fearing than yourself, and that Zeus hates you. No one in the whole world ever burned him more thigh bones, nor gave him finer hecatombs when you prayed you might come to green old age yourself and see your son grow up to take after you. Yet see how he has prevented you alone from ever getting back to your own home. I have no doubt the woman in some foreign palace which Odysseus has got to are giving at him as all these sluts have been giving at you. I do not wonder at your not choosing to let them wash your feet in the manner in which they have insulted you. I will wash your feet myself gladly enough, as Penelope has said that I am to do so. I will wash them both for Penelope's sake and for your own, for you have raised the most lively feelings of compassion in my mind. And let me say this moreover, which pray attend to. We have had all kinds of strangers in distress come here before now, that I make bold to say that no one ever yet came who was so like Odysseus in figure, voice, and feet as you are. Those who have seen us both, answered Odysseus, have always said we were wonderfully like each other, and now you have noticed it too. Then the old woman took a cauldron in which she was going to wash his feet and poured plenty of cold water into it. Adding hot till the bath was warm enough, Odysseus sat by the fire, but ere long he turned away from the light, for it occurred to him that when the old woman had hold of his leg, she would recognize a certain scar which bore it. Whereon the whole truth would come out, and indeed as soon as she began washing her master, she at once knew the scar as one that had been given him by a wild boar when he was hunting on Mount Parnassus with his excellent grandfather Autolycus, who was the most accomplished thief and perjurer in the whole world. With the sons of Autolycus, Hermes himself had endowed him with this gift, for he used to burn the thigh bones of goats and kids to him, so he took pleasure in his companionship. It happened once that Autolycus had gone to Ithaca and had found a child of his daughter just born. As soon as he had done supper, Euryclea said to the infant upon his knees and said, Autolycus, you must find a name for your grandson. You greatly wish that you might have one. Son-in-law and daughter, replied Autolycus, call the child thus. I am highly displeased of a large number of people in one place and another, both men and women, so name the child Odysseus, or the child of anger. When he grows up and comes to visit his mother's family on Mount Parnassus, where my possessions lie, I will make him a present and will send him on his way rejoicing. Odysseus therefore went to Parnassus to get the presents from Autolycus, who his sons shook hands with him and gave him welcome. His grandmother, Amphithea, threw her arms about him and kissed his head and both his beautiful eyes, while Autolycus desired his sons to get dinner ready, and they did as he told them. They brought in 5-year-old bull, flayed it and made it ready, and divided it into joints. These they then cut carefully up into smaller pieces and stitched them, and roasted them sufficiently, and served the portions round. Thus through the livelong day to the going down of the sun they feasted, and every man had his full share, so that they were all satisfied. But when the sun set up and it came dark, they went to a bed and enjoyed the boon of sleep. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, the sons of Autolycus went out to the hounds hunting, and Odysseus went too. They climbed the wood slopes of Parnassus, and too soon reached its breezy upland valleys. But as the sun was beginning to beat upon the fields, fresh risen from the slow, still currents of Oceanus, they came to the mountain dwell. The dogs ran in front, searching for tracks of the beasts that they were chasing, and after them came the sons of Autolycus, among whom Odysseus closed behind the dogs. He had a long spear in his hand. Here was the lair of the huge boar, among some thick brushwood. So dense that the wind and rain could not get through it, nor could the sun's rays pierce it, and ground underneath lay thick with fallen leaves. The boar heard the noise of the men's feet, and the hounds baying on every side as the huntsman came up to him. So he rushed from his lair, and raised his bristles on his neck, and stood at bay with the fire flashing from his eyes. Odysseus was the first to raise his spear and to try to drive it into the root, but the boar was too quick for him, and charged him sideways, ridding him above the knee with a gash, and tore deep though it did not reach the bone. As for the boar, Odysseus hit him on the right shoulder, and a point of the spear went right through him, so that he fell groaning in the dust until the life went out of him. The sons of Autolycus busied themselves with the carcass of the boar, and bound Odysseus wounded. Then, after saying a spell to stop the bleeding, they went home as fast as they could. But when Autolycus and his sons had thoroughly healed Odysseus, they had made him some splendid presents, and sent him back to Ithaca with much mutual goodwill. When he got back, his father and mother were rejoiced to see him, and asked him all about it, and how he had hurt himself to get the scar. So he told them how the boar had ripped him when he was out hunting with Autolycus and his sons of Mount Parnassus. As soon as Euryclea had got the scarred limb in her hands and had well hold of it, she recognized it and dropped to the foot at once. The leg fell into the bath, which rang out and overturned, so that all the water spilled on the ground. Euryclea's eyes, between her joy and her grief, were filled with tears, and she could not speak, but caught Odysseus by the beard and said, My dear child, I am sure you must be Odysseus himself, only I did not know you till I had actually touched and handled you. As she spoke, she looked up towards Penelope, as though wanting to tell her that her dear husband was in the house, but Penelope was also unable to look in that direction and observe what was going on, for Athena had diverted her attention, so Odysseus caught Euryclea by the throat with his right hand, with his left drew her close to him, and said, Nurse, do you wish to be the room with me, you who's nursed me at your own breast, now that after 20 years of wandering, I am at last come to my own home again, since it had been borne in upon you by heaven, and to recognize me, hold your tongue, and do not say a word about it to anyone else in the house, for you do, I tell you, and it shall be surely be, that if heaven grants me to take the lives of these suitors, I will not spare you, though you are my own nurse, when I am killing the other woman. My child, answered Euryclea, what are you talking about? You know very well that nothing can either bend or break me. I will hold my tongue like a stone or piece of iron. Furthermore, let me say, I lay my saying to your heart, when heaven has delivered the suitors into your hand, I will give you a list of women in the house who have been ill-behaved, and of those who are guiltless. And Odysseus answered, Nurse, you ought not to speak in that way. I am well able to form my own opinion about one and all of them. Hold your tongue, tongue and leave everything to heaven. And as said, this Euryclea left the cloister to fetch some more water, for the first had been all spilled. And when she had washed him and anointed him with oil, Odysseus drew his seat nearer to the fire to warm himself, and hid the scar under his rags. Then Penelope began talking to him, and said, Stranger, I should like to speak with you briefly about another matter. It is indeed nearly bedtime for those, at least, who can sleep in spite of sorrow. As for myself, heaven has given me a life of such unmeasurable woe that even by day, when I am attending to my duties and looking after the servants, I am still weeping and lamenting during the whole time. Then when night comes and we all of us go to bed, I lie awake thinking, and my heart becomes a prey to those most incessant and cruel tortures, as the dun nightingale, daughter of Pandarus, sings in the early spring from her seat in the shadiest covered head, and with many a plaintive trill pours out the tale by mishap. She killed her own child, Itellius, son of King Zethus. Even so does my mind toss and turn in its uncertainty, whether I ought to stay with my son here and safeguard my substance, my bondsmen, and the greatness of my house, out of regard to public opinion and the memory of my late husband, or whether it is not now time for me to go with the best of these suitors, who are wooing me and making me such magnificent presents. As long as my son was still young and unable to understand, he would not hear of my leaving my husband's house, but now that he is full grown, he begs and pays me to do so, being incensed at the way in which the suitors are eating up his property. Listen, then, to a dream that I have had, and interpret it for me, if you can. I have 20 geese about the house that eat mash out of the trough, and of which I am exceedingly fond. I dreamed that a great eagle came swooping down from a mountain, and dug his curved beak into the neck of each of them till he had killed them all. Presently he soared off into the sky, and left them lying dead about the yard, whereon I wept in my dream till all my maids gathered round me. So piteously was I grieving, because the eagle had killed my geese. Then he came back again, perching on a projecting rafter, spoke to me with a human voice, and told me to leave off crying. Be of good courage, he said, daughter of Icarus. This is no dream, but a vision of good omen that shall surely come to pass. The geese are the suitors, and I am no longer an eagle, but your own husband, who am come back to you, who will bring these suitors to a disgraceful end. On this I woke, and when I looked out, I saw my geese at the trough, eating their mash as usual. This dream, madam, replied Odysseus, can admit but one of interpretation. For had not Odysseus himself told you how it shall be fulfilled, the death of the suitors is portended, and not a single one of them will escape. And Penelope answered, Stranger, dreams are very curious and uncountable things, and they do not by any means invariably come true. There are two gates through which these unsubstantial fancies proceed, although one is of the horn, the other ivory. Those that come through the gate of ivory are fatuous, but those from the gate of horn mean something to those that see them. I do not think, however, that my own dream came through the gate of horn, though I am of my son should be most thankful if it proves to have done so. Furthermore, I say, and may by saying to your heart, the coming dawn will usher in the ill-omened day that is to sever me from the house of Odysseus, for I am about to hold a tournament of axes. My husband used to set up 12 axes in the court, one in front of the other, like the stays upon which a ship is built. He would then go back from them and shoot an arrow through the whole 12. I shall make the suitors try to do the same thing, and whichever of them can string the bow most easily and send his arrow through all 12 axes, then will I allow and quit this house and my lawful husband, so goodly and so abounding in wealth. But even so, I doubt not that I shall remember it in my dreams. Then Odysseus answered, Madam, wife of Odysseus, you need not defer your torment, for Odysseus will return ere ever they can string the bow, handle it how they will, and send their arrow through the iron. To this Penelope said, As long, sir, as you will sit here and talk to me, can I have no desire to go to bed. Still, people cannot do permanently without sleep, and heaven has appointed us dwellers on earth a time for all things. I will therefore go upstairs and recline upon the couch, which I have never ceased to flood with my tears when the day Odysseus set out for the city with a hateful name. She then went upstairs to her own room, not alone, but attended by her maidens, and when there she lamented her dear husband till Athena shed sweet sleep over her eyelids.